Hi, everyone. Welcome to Facebook Live. This is all about life beyond amazing. Could that really happen? I believe so. And I used to have a life beyond amazing. Then it wasn't so amazing for some years. And today I do have a life beyond amazing. So there were some reasons. The main reason is that I am doing what I love. And as long as I'm consistently making lives better, doing what I love, that is the most important for me. So ask yourself one question. Are you better today than yesterday? I am better today. And why do I ask that question? The reason is because yesterday is the past. It's gone. You have today and what you're working on or working in the moment on. Additionally, the future is not yet there. And the way I look at it, because I'm very positive, is that we can definitely create a better future. However, as you go about it the right way, that future can be a lot greater than you could ever imagine. That's what happened to me. Of course, it didn't happen overnight. If you would have told me I would be doing what I'm doing today, I would have told you, no way. Impossible. However, here I am. And so you might be wondering, why am I wearing a referee jersey or uniform? Well, the reason is because I am a referee and I referee sports, all types of sports. And the thing that I focus on while refereeing is to be educative. I'm not the authority out there. However, I am educating them. So in other words, when the basketball players, soccer players, whomever they may be, when they're doing something, a lot of times it happens so fast and they're not doing it intentionally. And unless I educate them and I inform them and give them something to work on, something to think about, well, they don't really know what they did wrong. And that's when the emotions and the frustrations might come up. And so really, I'm out there being educative. And I'm telling them, hey, keep it clean, keep it clean. Because before, they were a little rough. So I'm telling them as they're going towards the ball, keep it clean, keep it clean. Or, oh, no. He got all ball. He didn't trip you, and therefore you fell, or whatever it may be. So I'm very educative there. And they really appreciate that because they have something to base themselves on to perform better because they're really out there to play clean soccer or clean basketball or clean football. However, sometimes the emotions, the intensity of the game, the mental fatigue, physical fatigue, all of that plays a role in them doing things that are not appropriate. And so I have to be educative to bring them back in. And so another reason I ask that question is if you're comparing yourself to someone else, stop it. You have unique gifts, talents, and skills. Now, you can compare yourself to yesterday, and that's why I asked the question, are you better today than yesterday? So that's very, very essential for you to consistently be getting better. Now, of course, there's lots of things that need to happen for that to happen. But today we're going to talk about the most important things, and that are your relationships and then also conflict resolution for the ones that aren't so well. And so your relationships just like my stages for learning something, it starts with nurturing, developing, building, and growing a meaningful and trusting relationship. Now, let me give you an example that we can all identify with. You've been to a department store. For quite some time, I used to go to a department store, and I wouldn't want someone working there to ask to help me or to show me around. And nowadays, when I go, I do want someone to ask. And if they don't ask, I go seek them. Why? Because I know they may know of some insights where there are some better deals, or where something new might have come that I don't happen to see, or there might be something in the back that just isn't on the floor. And so I sort of develop and nurture and develop a relationship there. Now, that's one example. Now, another example is with someone new, someone you just met in life, or even with a prospect who you would like to be a client. First, what do? You nurture it. You say hi, you introduce yourself, you learn something about each other, right? And then you decide, do you want to develop it? And then over time you develop it, or it could happen quite quickly. It just depends. And then to get to the build stage, well, you have to do something with each other, not as a group, but with each other. So whatever that may be. So if it's a friend or someone you want to go out with, then it's just you and them doing something together. So you're in the build stage now. If it's a client, then you and the client are doing something together. So that's in the build stage. So there's probably some type of agreement in place. And then you have the growth stage. And that's when you just take it to another level, to where together, obviously in the build as well as the growth, together you are much greater. You can create something much greater, because now you're understanding, and you're understanding each other, and now you can better provide the answers or the insights needed to create something greater in the build phase, and as well as in the growth phase. And so that's amazing. So really, those are the stages. Now, it's also very important to know that the most important thing for you to have is to have the right, or to have your support system. And this support system can be anything, anybody, thoughts, images. Okay? So in other words, these are people in your life that are directly in your life that you know very well, and that you know are motivating, inspiring, encouraging, supportive of you and your dreams, your aspirations, etc. Now, nobody will be supportive of everything you do, so you have the right ones for whatever it is that you're pursuing. However, there are also people you don't even know, but you saw them on TV. They might be famous, they might not be, whomever it may be. You might read about them, and you just identify with them somewhat. And they just come to mind, or a thought, or you read something comes to mind, or you see an image of them and that comes to mind. And that's very important, because they're a part of your support system. And so your support system can be very wide. It's not just who is there physically in front of you. It's also who is there in your mind, who is there in your thoughts, who are there in images. So that's essential, because you believing and having confidence in yourself is essential. Now, sometimes in life, you may be at a point where that's very difficult for you. And that's when it's important to reach out or get the right help, so that someone can believe and have confidence in you. And usually this happens when something really tragic or a crisis type situation happens that we just couldn't even fathom or imagine being a part of our life. And so therefore we're sort of in the jungle, and we need to know what to do. Now, the other area that we want to talk about today is intrusive relationships, intrusive images, and intrusive thoughts. First of all, let me say, before we go deeper into that, we do not ever get involved with toxic relationships. There is no need. A relationship should never get to the point of a toxic relationship. So, for example, bullying is an intrusive relationship that wasn't solved with techniques, with tools, that became a toxic relationship. That should never happen. And today, I will give you techniques and tools to solve a majority of your intrusive relationships, intrusive thoughts, and intrusive images. Now, these relationships actually are relationships you probably want, but for whatever reason, based on whatever situation, they have become intrusive. And what I mean by intrusive is that as you're pursuing whatever dream or vision or mission or clear goal or aspiration you have, these relationships are coming to mind. Maybe they said something, maybe you see an image of them looking, like there's no way you'll be able to do that. Or you have a thought about them that's keeping you distracted from what it is you need to be thinking, feeling, and seeing and doing in order to continue to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. And therefore, it's draining your energy, it's draining your capacity. And because of that, your mind feels overloaded or overwhelmed. And instead of having that energy and capacity onto that accomplishment, it's being diverted. And as it's being diverted, that's when you feel like you're losing time. That's when you become impatient. Your mind loses concentration ability, focus ability, attention ability, toughness ability. And so it's very important that we have the techniques and tools to solve this. So one of the things that you should do, first of all, in those intrusive type relationships, images and thoughts, is just to tell yourself the real story, but view it with a new perspective. Okay? View it with a new perspective. And that may diminish it some. Another way to do it is, first of all, if it becomes too intrusive, those individuals just stop being as accessible as you were before. They'll get the idea. Okay? There's not time for that because it's draining your energy, and it wastes your energy, and it wastes your time, and each person's time is priceless. So that's another way. And then additionally, if you do want to address it with the person, okay, whether it's in person, okay, like this, where they're physically in front of you, or in your mind with the thoughts or with the images, then start with, first of all, let's start with in person. Just make the decision to not use cuss words. Because if you do, it just elevates the emotion, the intensity of the moment, and it takes away people's rationality. And this is with families, this is with close friends, clients, whomever it may be, teammates. I mean, we just have those intrusive relationships. And most of the time, the reason they become intrusive is because communication was broke down somewhere. I don't know where, but it was somewhere the communication did not occur. So there was miscommunication. And so a thing to do in this context, or when this happens with this individual, is to first understand is to slow down in your talk and just use amazing thoughts and amazing words. We have a great vocabulary, lots of words. And we can use words better and really put them together without being on autopilot and using a lot of phrases and colloquialisms that we use when we're just trying to quickly name off something. Well, relationships aren't this quickly thing that can be handled like that. And so that's when you start saying, hey, if it's too hot in the kitchen, get out, those kind of things. They have no value in actually solving an intrusive relationship. Okay. It's just a real quick way to just show that two people really aren't communicating and connecting with each other. And so use amazing thoughts and words. And then additionally, as you're doing this, and if the person's not in front of you, but they're in your mind as far as an image or thoughts, and you're having a dialogue with this, then obviously it's intrusive. And your capacity, your energy is being drained and diminished, and you will not perform as well. And so you need to be able to address those, okay? Just to realize. And a lot of times what that means is just not being as accessible. And then sometimes just realizing that, hey, instead of thinking about them or having thoughts or images about them, to have thoughts and images about what it is that you need to have thoughts and images about to accomplish what you're doing, or to think about your support system and the thoughts and images there of those people that do support you. So, maybe somebody wrote something about you in the papers, and that's their job, is they've got to create some kind of conflict a lot of times. And so they wrote something, and of course you don't agree with it, and they took it out of context, or they have a different perspective. And it's just one of those things that is unfortunately the way that we are in our media sometimes. And so realize that, hey, you have your support system. You know what it is that you're wanting to accomplish and why and how. And therefore, you're very confident in yourself and have beliefs in yourself and in your ability, because you've got to have that so that you can get through these types of situations. And with these tools, you'll be able to get through this a lot easier. Now, sometimes you may be in a relationship where you're an outside party. You just know two people, whether they're family, friends, maybe your kids, teammates, whomever, and they just have some kind of intrusive relationship conflict, and you just happen to be around. Well, while they're doing their arguing or bickering or they're quarreling with one another, just stop and say, use amazing words, or just say amazing words. And usually they'll stop and they'll correct themselves, because you'll get them out of that mindset that's making them do what they're doing. Now, sometimes they might look at you weird like this, and then you say, use amazing words. And so that would be really, really helpful. And so they'll get the idea, and that's how you can help someone else. Now, the other thing, and this is what leads to bullying in a toxic relationship, is if those intrusive relationships happen, somebody says something, makes a comment, whatever, look, oh, he or she is walking out the door. They think they're going to be able to do this. As you're walking, they're talking to your back, obviously not being supportive. Well, you can just let that go and say, well, obviously they don't quite agree with me, and that's okay. And just say that internally and keep walking. And then after a while, though, if it starts to happen and it flows over into other areas of your life with them, then if you just keep just letting it in like that, eventually those words and those are going to get inside of you, and they're going to build up and build up and build up to where it's going to be very harmful for your health, for your everything. And that's when you might sort of shut down a little bit, and bullying and things like that happen to where you're almost as if you're losing power. So don't ever let that happen. So if anybody ever says something like that to you in a snide remark or a comment that is not coming from the heart, you don't need to get mad at them, angry at them, make a mean face, whatever. You just need to look them straight in the eye and say, you don't need to do that. And just stop. And they might say, yeah, I do, yeah, I do. And then just put your hand up like that. And eventually they'll figure out that, hey, you're not one of these people that they can do this with, so that you can be manipulated and they can have control and power over you. Okay? So you never want to do that because, again, that's how bullying starts. That's how relationships go from being intrusive to being toxic relationships. And so you might have two kids and they're boys, and you just assume that boys are supposed to fight, right? And that's not true that they're supposed to fight. They are brothers. They don't need to fight. Now, sometimes that happens. I understand that. But it's just one of those things to where, again, you can use the same technique when they're doing whatever they're doing. You say, use amazing words, or use amazing thoughts and use amazing words. And that will trigger them and get them to correct themselves. And you don't have to tell them what to say or what to do. They'll do it on their own. So that's important. That's very important. We need more civility in this world. I just finished watching a TV show that I normally don't watch, but I was just taking a break, and it was ridiculous. They caught a bunch of I would say it would be beyond rants on cell phone or mobile phone video. And it's crazy to think that someone could think that way. And not only think that way, but actually express it to the people. It was so ridiculous. And so another technique is if someone's doing something like that, you just say, and I've done this on the basketball court when people get too emotional. I've done this in other places, and we just say, and I just say, we don't do that here. And usually I only have to say that once before they realize, because, you know, they feel the pressure from everybody standing around because that's we, including them. And it's just like, look, you know, we don't do that here. It's just that simple. And usually they'll stop the person right there, then and there. And it's just one of those things. They just get too emotional. Something happens and something triggers them in a emotional way that's negative. Now, emotion can also be very positive. We all know that. And so now I want to talk with you about an advanced performance tool that I have. And of course, a lot of you have seen it. And it's when I put a person, 2 people, 4 people, or groups of 2 or groups of 4 back to back like this, and I facilitate an intervention. Now, this intervention can be used to facilitate communication, teamwork, idea generation, innovation, entrepreneurial leadership, on how to better our performance or what can be better. But it can also be used for conflict resolution, especially relationship conflict resolution. So that's essential. Now, you can use the tool. However, you really need to be trained on it. And if you are in an intrusive type relationship that needs to be resolved, it's always nice to have a third party with an expertise to come in and to guide you and to help you through that process. And so they have rules for that, and you can see that on my website. If you watch my preview videos, eventually I get to that advanced performance tool. And so that's what I wanted to talk with you today about. And one of the things I wanted to mention to you is whatever your situation or challenge is right now, whatever it may be, you know, it really doesn't take as long as you think. Do what you love. Do what you love. And most people that I talk with, it's not that they don't love what they do, but there's an environmental issue or problem, or there's a relationship, intrusive relationship issue. And so the communication is not in place in order to solve that. And therefore, they stop loving what they're doing. And then sometimes people actually are just ready to do something else just because of a lot of reasons. And it's just natural that they want to reinvent themselves. And so that's what I have today. If something here resonates with you, contact me to discuss how I can help you. I work with people in their work life, I work with people in their life, and I work with people creating something greater in both lives. So, are you better today than yesterday? I'm thankful that I can answer, I am better today.